Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Thank you for being here, for watching or listening. I really do appreciate it. Today, we're talking about myth busting, both reselling and on eBay. Anything you like, let's bust some myths.
Hey, I'm Car Boot Chris. I'm a full-time UK online reseller. I operate mainly on eBay and also Whatnot, but also some other platforms as well. I'm going to bring you regular podcasts all about reselling, hopefully to keep you company, to entertain, or maybe to educate. Who knows? Welcome to the Everything Reselling podcast.
Welcome, everybody. It's episode 9 of series 3 of the podcast, and thank you all so much for being here and for watching or listening. Really do appreciate it. I'm Car Boot Chris. I'm a full-time reseller. I sell predominantly on eBay, but I also do Whatnot now, less frequently than what I used to do, and some other platforms and some other income streams on top of that as well. But eBay is my main breadwinner. And I've been doing it as a business since 2015. Started off part-time, 2019, and went full-time, and we're still here now, earning a living from eBay and reselling. So it is possible. If you're thinking about doing it, there's many of us that do it. A lot of people say to us, "Oh, you can't earn a full-time living doing this." You definitely can earn it. You just got to be dedicated and be willing to learn. Definitely. Welcome to everybody in the YouTube chat. I appreciate you popping in and saying hello. Get your hellos in there. I can see you all in YouTube. And if you're listening, please download the podcast on your chosen audio platform, whether it be Spotify or Apple Music. Today we're talking about myth busting. Now, we have done this subject before. So here's what I was going to do today. A year ago, I did a lunch hour live and we talked about myth busting then. So I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to download the video from that hour's lunch hour live. I'm going to repurpose it and then upload it as a podcast. And that will kind of save me going live this week. And then I started watching it this morning and I thought, I'm going to have to edit that bit out. And I just thought, by the time I've downloaded that video from a year ago, I might as well just do it live and we can bring the myth busting back up to date for 2024. Whereas a year ago, there was a few things that we chatted about that probably ain't relevant now. So, yeah, we're going to bring it all back up to date. So put anything in the chat, guys. Any of your myths. And it doesn't have to just be eBay, like any kind of reselling related myths. It can be another platform if you like. But put your myth in the chat. I'll bring it up and we'll discuss it and we'll try and see if we can bust the myth. And that is going to be the main topic for today's podcast. Yeah, there's so many things. I've got one for you. Let's start us off. I've got a little list of myths. So let me have a look. Let me pick one out. Here's a good one. There's this myth that people seem to think, and you get this a lot, that eBay is full of scammers. And I say that's a myth. Because having sold on eBay, right, for over 20 years, and I've had my personal account since the year 2000 on eBay. And in all that time, I've not really been scammed very often. I've done thousands and thousands and thousands of transactions, and maybe I've been scammed. I remember early days eBay, I got scammed on a mobile phone. That was very early eBay, so 2000, 2001. eBay had only been going a couple of years. And I got scammed then. But since then, you get the odd thing. You know, people try and take the mickey a little bit. But eBay is definitely not full of scammers. No more than in any other walk of life and on any other platform. Vinted has scammers on it, 100%. Vinted has a ton of fake stuff. Vinted have sellers that want to scam you, just like other platforms. I don't have much experience of Etsy. Don't know if there's scammers on there. But what I'm saying is, wherever you go, on whatever platform you use, you will come across scammers. And eBay, per se, is not full of scammers. Sometimes you're at a boot sale and you'll be chatting to a seller. And the seller will say, "Oh, I don't sell on eBay. It's full of scammers." That is the phrase that you get. And it's not. It's people's perception. It's a myth, isn't it? It's not full of scammers. Anyway, even my family members say, "Oh, eBay's full of scammers. You get scammed on there." It doesn't. You don't. It's not full of scammers. So there you go. I'm gonna bust that myth straight away. That is busted. Let's see if we can bust some more. Limelight Vinty's got a potentially a myth here. Limelight Vinty on YouTube says, "Online live selling is the future of reselling." Well, we don't know if it's a myth or not, though, Limelight Vinty, do we? Because we can't predict the future. I think there will be this is just my opinion. We'll let anybody else in the chat sort of go there, but I definitely think there's a place for it. Is it the future? I think it will be in our future, whether it just be eBay or whether it be Whatnot or Tilt or some other platform will probably come along. I think there's a place for it. Is it the future? I don't think it will be the be all and end all, put it that way. Welcome everybody else. Just on the subject of live selling, ABL Reselling has put a myth here. Whatnots will definitely grow in the UK. Ooh, controversial. Controversial. Again, it's one of them. I don't know if you can call it a myth because we don't know what the future holds, do we? What if tomorrow, playing devil's advocate, what if tomorrow we start seeing adverts on TV, on Saturday night TV, in between Ant and Dec's Saturday Night Takeaway? We start seeing adverts for Whatnot. Would your opinion or would your myth, Dave, then change? Because at the moment, right, with Whatnot, and let's not go down the whole Whatnot route. I mean, George has done it this week, and I've said my piece on Whatnot as well. But with Whatnot at the moment, if you were to do a survey, an honest survey, right, just walk down your local high street and talk to 100 people, random people, young, old, whatever. Talk to 100 people on your local high street. Have you heard of the selling platform Whatnot? And I would guess that 99 or even 100 of them, every single one, I'd say between 99 and 100 will say they've never heard of Whatnot. And that's because they're not putting themselves into the faces of people, into the minds of people, and that is through advertising. That's all it boils down to. And the same thing happened to Poshmark in the UK, didn't it? Exactly the same thing. Although Whatnot has lasted longer than Poshmark did. Poshmark lasted about a year, and Whatnot has been going about 20 months, something like that. So Whatnot approaching 2 years in the UK. So already they've done better. But I know what you're saying. Is it a myth? I don't know. I don't know. They can change that. They can actually have an effect on that. Alan says, do you think some scams are just due to people not actually knowing what it is they are selling? I hear people wrongly describe things on Whatnot and eBay. Maybe, possibly. Yeah, you do see it, like, especially when people are selling live, sometimes people, like, misdescribe, don't they? Possibly. Yeah, you could be right there. Chris Tyler says, I had someone just yesterday say an item hadn't arrived, eBay tracking no movement, but Royal Mail tracking showed delivered. He then sent me this 20 minutes later. Resolved. Posty had included the book on my partner's notice left, even though we have different surnames. She just came in and said, there's one here for you. Yeah, people try it on. Sometimes you don't know if it's genuine or not. There are some buyers who will try it on and see if they can get away with something. But it definitely doesn't mean that eBay is, and I quote, full of scammers. Definitely does not mean that. And I don't think they are any more full of scammers than any other platform. Amazon probably have their own fair share of scammers as well. With Amazon, I think there's a lot of switcheroos that go on. You know, they people do a return on Amazon. Amazon, no quibble returns. You can return something immediately. They'll even, like, once you've had something delivered, and eBay do this sometimes as well. When you've had something delivered, you will get an immediate email from Amazon and eBay saying, here's how you return it, like, immediately. And yeah, switcheroos are probably more common on Amazon than eBay. Alan says, I'd like to win that on Win the Ads. Yeah. ABL Dave says people use the word scam or scammer because they can't articulate properly. The same as folk who say my account has been hacked. No, you've given away or have been duped out of your information. Yeah, fished. You've been fished. Yeah, true. Fair point. It might not apply to everybody, but yeah, I agree with where you're coming from with that one. Lin says, one of my friends is a reseller, had never heard of Whatnot until I told her. Well, that does surprise me. I would guess, like, if you did that same survey that I mentioned earlier, 100 resellers, ask them how many of them had heard of Whatnot as a platform. I would probably say there's a very high percentage, or a very high number. It's got to be in the 90s. Out of 100 that would have heard of Whatnot. I mean, it's been going around the reseller world, the reseller community, for the last sort of almost 2 years since they started. But yeah, it's going to be, I tell you what, it's going to be very, very interesting when eBay open up live selling. What will happen to Tilt and what will happen to Whatnot? Maybe that's another video. Maybe that's another conversation we need to save for another podcast. Certainly. Come on, get your myths. We need to bust some myths. I'm going to have to go to my list. There's definitely a lack of myths coming from out of you lot. Here's a myth for you, and I think it's a myth based on some evidential value, by the way. Here's a myth. GSP, so the Global Shipping Program, repackage everything. I think that's a myth, and I'll tell you why. I've had a number of items that unfortunately have arrived damaged via GSP. So when it's gone through the international leg of the journey and arrived with my buyer in the USA, in Germany or Australia, whatever, and it's arrived damaged. And I normally, even though it's not my problem, I like to see, like, how it's damaged. How has it happened? And a lot of the time, people will automatically send you a picture of the damage and the packaging and stuff anyway. And most of the time, I have to say that it's the same packaging as when I've sent it. So I wonder what GSP, what the center actually do Do they even open your parcel when it comes? Because I think they don't even open it. I think they have a visual inspection of the parcel. Is it fit for purpose? Has it got any dents or rips or damage when it arrives? Does it feel sturdy? Maybe I don't even know if they look at what is meant to be inside the parcel before they make that decision. Or does it just go through a process to get relabeled and sent on its way internationally? Because definitely the majority of parcels that I've seen pictures of arrive at my destination is the original packaging that I sent it in the first place. So I think it's a myth that people seem to think that the global shipping program will repackage your item. I think that's a myth. Let's move on. Any more? Any more for any more? Here's a myth from Limelight Vinty. If it wasn't for resellers, charity shops would close. Ooh, that's an interesting one. To be honest with you, some are closing now, aren't they? But I don't think it's because resellers aren't buying anymore. It's probably a myth, isn't it? Maybe a myth. I don't think they're closing because of lack of resellers. I think they're closing because the marketplace, the way of selling is changing. I think they're closing because their charities are operating more online. They have bigger eBay stores. They operate on Depop. When I worked for a charity, I left in 2019, I think, was it? Yeah. I mean, that's 5 years ago I left the charity that I worked for. And 5 years ago, they were already on eBay, Depop. They were selling on Zifit, Etsy, and they even used to use I think they even used to occasionally utilize Facebook Marketplace as well. And that's a charity that had 8 or 9 retail outlets across the borough. So I think because more and more charities are utilizing online selling, I think that is the main reason why charity shops are closing up. Probably doesn't help that you and me as resellers are not shopping in charity shops as much. That's not going to help them. Married to Reselling has a myth. Thank you, Married to Reselling, for your suggestion here. We all know about the algorithm. Which one? Which one, Faye and Simon? The eBay algorithm? The Vinted algorithm? The YouTube algorithm? We all think we know about these algorithms, don't we? And we know nothing, really. We all come up with theories. And that's all it is. It's a theory. Yeah, we just don't know, do we? And you know what the weird thing is, Married to Reselling? I'm not even sure, like, the bosses at these organizations, like eBay, let's use eBay as the example. I'm not even sure if they know the right and wrong answers to things like these myths. Like, say, for example, you have to list every day. I'm not even convinced they know the answer to that. If you list 10 things a week and you list them all on a Sunday or a Monday or whatever, just pick one day, and they're all amazing items that have a high sell-through rate, you're going to sell those items, right? They're going to sell. That is the bottom line. And it doesn't matter, in my opinion, whether you split them up over the 7 days, those 10 items that you do, like 2 a day or 1 a day, or you list them all on a Monday. Doesn't matter, I don't think, because what essentially matters, I am suggesting, I don't know, is that the item you're selling is worth buying. It's good enough. It's got a high sell-through rate. It's in demand. But I genuinely do think that some things, these bosses, these managers, bosses, whatever, people that run these companies don't even know. Because I think, like, the algorithms just, like, take on their own being. And when AI starts getting involved, they're not going to have a clue, are they? Stick AI with the algorithm, nobody's going to know anything anymore because it's going to be controlled by robots, right? Not a clue. And there we go. Dave's just come up with something that I was just touching on then. Myth from Dave. Listing every day is better than binge listing once or twice a week. This is probably one of the most contentious myths that we'll talk about today. Because, like I said earlier, if you list something that has a massively high sell-through rate, or you list those things on a day, you know, all in one go, you've got a handful, then they're going to sell. It's not going to matter whether you do it every day or all in one day. So I guess the question is, what is everybody happier doing? Splitting their listings up over the course of a week, which is the general way that people do it, because you don't have time to list your entire week's stuff in one day. That's probably the reason. So you split it up. I think in my mind, I prefer having stuff going on every day, just because we like to think that the algorithm prefers it when we list every day and there's activity every day. But is it a myth? It might be a myth. What do you think? I'm just giving you my opinion. I want to know your opinions in the chat here. Alan says, is it a myth that GSP won't accept a signed for package? I've not seen anywhere, Alan, that says you can't send something to GSP that's signed for. So my initial opinion is that that is a myth. Chop chop, busy, welcome on YouTube. Myth, eBay don't like me and switch me off. That actually links to one of my other things that I wrote down, and I put this as a potential myth. eBay throttles your sales. Another contentious one. Do eBay turn off your sales? I don't know. It feels like they do sometimes. Sometimes when you've got some good stuff, you've listed a load of things all week, you'll have here's what happens a lot. You'll have an amazing day, and the next day you'll have a really bad day. So have you kind of reached a limit of sales that eBay's algorithm will allow you to have in a certain amount of time? It would be crazy, wouldn't it, if that was true, really? Because if you're selling things and listing things that are in high demand, then it should not matter at all, and there should be no throttling, because eBay want you to sell things because that's when they earn their money. They earn when you sell, they get their percentages. So the more you sell, the more they will present in front of buyers. So do eBay throttle our sales? Why do eBay throttle? Some people think that eBay throttle your sales when you have a return open. I think that's a myth, by the way. Some people think that they throttle your sales if you have a case open. I also think that's a myth. I don't know. You tell me in the chat and I'll read out your comments. AMPR says, I reckon they must inspect the GSP item to ensure it's what you said it was, i.e. it's not being used for smuggling illegal goods. Maybe, AMPR. Maybe. I don't know. I'm not convinced in some cases they even open the boxes. AA has put in, we've kind of covered these at AA, but thank you for your comments. eBay hides listings and eBay caps seller sales. Are they myths? I don't know. You tell me in the chat. Well, I've kind of mentioned it. It feels like it's real, but it wouldn't really make sense, would it, for eBay to do that? I don't know. I don't know on that one. AMPR says, myth. Charity shops are no good for resellers. The truth is that there are still the occasional diamonds in the manure if you look hard and often enough. Yeah, I think you're probably right with that one, AMPR. But question in regards to your myth and truth is it worth your time um, looking so hard in charity shops and spending so much time just to find the odd one or two items? You could spend half a day and come home with 2, 3 items from charity shops when you've gone round 8 or 9 shops. That's my experience. And that is probably why I don't source a lot from charity shops anymore like I used to, because of the time factor. You've got to value your time. Again, there is still diamonds to be had for sure. And that answers your question. But is it worth your time looking for those diamonds? That's another question, isn't it? Resell anything has kind of just gone on from that sort of comment and said, I've been to 6 charity shops today and picked up nothing. I think it's more people are selling rather than donating. That's probably a good point as well. Yeah, people like looking to make a little bit of extra money out of their unwanted items rather than donating it at a charity shop. It's a good point, that. Alan said, I found a boxed Barbie doll figure in a charity shop last week for $6.99. Sold it on eBay for £50. Still some bargains to be had. Yeah, fair comment, Alan. Fair comment. I definitely think you can still find stuff. But like I say, is it worth trailing around the charity shops just to find that one item? I think with charity shops, it's worth it if you've got a contact. Definitely. If you know someone at a charity shop or you're friendly with the manager and they're willing to sort of hold things for you or let you know when stuff comes in, then that's a different ball game. That's a whole different thing. You've got an advantage there. Yeah, Marita Reselling said the only people that need to know about the algorithms are the programmers. Yeah, if you need to know, you know. Oh, I wish. Should we get a programmer? Let's see if we can get an eBay programmer to come on the show. Wow, that would be amazing, wouldn't it? They never would they? Never. You'd never even find one. They're probably like shrouded in secrecy. I bet they arrive to eBay headquarters in a blacked out limo with people following them to make sure that they're not being followed. They come out undercover, shoot into the eBay HQ and never to be seen again. Like Secret Service. Richard Payne's got a myth. You need to promote to get visibility on eBay. Well, Richard would say that because Richard doesn't promote on anything. I know that for a fact. I don't think it's a myth. I think you do need to promote if you have things that perhaps have a slightly longer sell-through rate. If you want things to sell quicker, you can promote. That's definitely one thing. If you want things to move a little bit quicker, use the promoted listings. Just think about it though, Richard. I've had this conversation with you before, and I'm not telling you to, definitely not telling you to go and spend your hard-earned profits on promoting. But what if you use promoted listings and all of a sudden your sales went through the roof? I'll just leave you with that thought. What if? I know you say you do great, and I know you do great on your sales on eBay, but what if you promoted? Because it's not all about being top of search as well with promoted listings. You appear in all kinds of places on eBay and the eBay family. You appear all over the show in searches, suggested items to buy and all kinds of stuff. Let's go through the chat, see if we've got any more myths to bust. Sandra says, what's Sandra saying here? I saw a dress on Whatnot with a charity shop tag on for £15. Instead of reducing it in the shop, they moved it on. The seller on Whatnot sold it for £2. The charity shop could have got the £2. Yeah. Yeah, true. AA said, charity shops still miss a lot of things. I bought an item for £11, sold it for 200, and it didn't take long to get a sale. That's good, AA. I'm pleased that you found some things. They do miss things. There's still plenty. Although I don't seem to find much. But my mindset is different now. It's like I'm kind of sometimes I go into a charity shop now and I go in already with a negative mindset, and that's bad. That's not good for me because I go in like sometimes like not looking properly because I just think, oh, this is a waste of time. So I guess you go in with the right mindset and you might find more things. Look properly as well. That's just me, and kind of got quite negative about finding stuff in charity shops. Maybe one day soon I'll do a charity shop video for YouTube and go in there, go into a town. I'll go into a town around here somewhere, North Wales, and we'll just go in with the right frame of mind. We'll go in and we'll look through everything in all the charity shops and have a proper good search and see what we can find, and just to ease my own mind that you can still find things. Babs at the Attic said, I list when I can, maybe every day, maybe 10 in one go. Yeah, there's definitely a train of thought that says, if you've got it, if it's like listed, get it listed now rather than scheduling it. But then again, there's also a train of thought that says, if you're going on holiday, it's a good idea to draft listings so that there's activity. Some people will say, just bang it on now. It's got a better chance of selling when it's listed. Well, in fact, it's got 100% better chance of selling when it's listed than when it's not listed. So, yeah, there's two different trains of thought going on there. And I think there's something to be said for both. Married to Reselling said, I'll sell more in 7 days from a Monday if I list 70 items on a Monday versus listing 10 each day. On a Tuesday, I only have 20 of them for sale. That's interesting. The thing is, though, Married to Reselling, how the hell have you listed 70 items on a Monday? I don't think in my reselling life I've ever listed 70 in one day. I think the most I can get through, if I really like focus, I can probably do 30 without distractions. But I think the problem is when you're an everything reseller, I think there is a limit to what you can sell in, what you can list in a day, because you are having to switch up between different items. I guess if I was to just get a pile of like Marvel t-shirts, let's put that, I could get through like 30 in a day because I just do sell similar. A lot of the item specifics would be the same, and you could do it that way. Like the other day, I had a stack of, the Aikido trainers, like the licensed ones, like Back to the Future trainers and Rick and Morty and all that. I had a stack of 13 of those trainers. And because they were all pretty much the same, apart from the different like movies and TV shows, I managed to list all those 13 in probably like an hour. Or very quick, because it was one after the other. And I was just selling similar from the last one, changing some very, very few little different things, a bit in the title and a couple of the item specifics. The rest is the same, the size maybe. Very quick, 2-3 minutes ago to list them. So I guess if you've got that kind of situation, you can list loads. But I think when you're an everything seller, like if you jump from t-shirts to toy to Walkman to VHS player to DVD to computer game, if you're jumping around like that, it's probably not the most efficient way of listing. Resell Anything said, I've had 4 good days in a row, but today so far has been slow. I've had a slow day today as well, so you're not the only one there. Let's go through the chat. Alan said, I've had a GSP return package saying nobody to sign for it, so use the track system rather than sign for. I presume nobody goes through individually signing things. Must be a myth. Not sure, Alan. Not sure on that one. I don't think I never send anything signed for anyway, because they just don't do it anymore. They just don't do. Even Royal Mail sometimes you can send signed for, and they don't get a signature. They just dump it like every other. The same with Every. If you want a signature on there, they still dump it. Richard said you have to send items worth over £450 using a signed for service to be covered by eBay if there's a dispute. Question is, will it actually get signed for though, Richard? I'm not convinced. AA said, when the weather is good, sales are slow. I think that's a myth. I don't think the weather really has much to do with sales. I think it's just to do with what you actually have for sale. I think that's a myth. I know people say, oh, everybody's out in the sunshine, everyone's on holiday. That's another one. When people are on holiday, sales are slow. I don't know. I think it's a myth. Let's go through, see if we've got any more things to highlight on here. Jeff, welcome, Jeff. Jeff says eBay throttling sales, the Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot, Santa Claus, lots of myths out there to believe in or bust. Yeah, Santa, is that a myth? I'll let you decide whether you believe in Santa or not. Oh, here we go. Alan says myth. The promote feature is worth the money on Whatnot. I think that is a myth. Having tried the promote feature on Whatnot, it is the worst waste of time I've ever done. Thankfully, I didn't use my own money. I actually used Whatnot's promotional money that they gave everybody to sort of try out their promote feature. It's pointless because there's not enough people selling on Whatnot now anyway. So it doesn't seem to be that much competition that you need to promote your show. It's like, what are you actually gaining from promoting a Whatnot show? I very little, I don't think, or very little, I think. ABL Dave says the more available or common your item for sale is, the more it is a good idea to promote. Yeah, you're probably right with that one. Yeah. More competition, probably. I think this is a myth. In regards promoted, I think this is a myth, right? Listen to this one. People always say, if you've got something rare or like a one-off item, that it's pointless to promote it. That, in my opinion, is a myth. And you know why? And I say it loads. Like, when you're paying to promote an item, and don't forget, you only pay when something sells, assuming you use the correct promoted. You're not just paying for top of search or high up in search results, because people say, oh, if it's rare, it'll naturally appear at the top of a search result, which is true. Okay. But what happens with promoted is things are eBay will push your item in other places other than top of search. So say, for example, somebody's looking at an item. I can't think of something rare. Let's say a rare painting, right? A rare painting. There's only one on eBay, right? But there's a buyer looking at a different painting, maybe by the same artist. So what eBay do is, like when you're looking at that page of a listing page, and at the bottom it gives you suggestions of other things that you might like. right? That'll be one of the shelves. That'll be an advertising shelf where your promoted listing might sit. So forget top of search. Your item's now being promoted to somebody who likes the same artist, and actually might see that underneath and think, oh, I prefer that one. That one looks good. So I'm going to click on that and buy that because it appeared there and I didn't even know that it existed because they'd never searched for it. You're making an assumption that someone's going to search for a specific painting by a specific artist. They might not. They might just stumble across it because it's appeared at a checkout page, because that's another place where stuff appears on checkout. In your when you're dealing with your basket, when you're searching for things on the home page, when you first log into eBay, there's lots of promoted slots on the home page. There's something like, there used to be 60 places. I sound like an advert for eBay here. It's not, but I'm just trying to say to you, it's not all about top of search. And that's why when people say you shouldn't promote something that's rare or one-off, that's a myth, because your item could be promoted somewhere else on the platform and get picked up by a potential buyer. And it used to be 60 different places across the eBay world where items were appearing promoted. And that's the difference. And people don't understand that. Like, loads of people just think it's top of search and it's not. So I just promote everything. I don't go through and think, oh, that's rare, I'm not promoting it. No, I'm still going to promote it because I'm only paying the fee when it sells. And if it sells, I'm happy anyway. Let's go. Let's carry on through the chat. Oh, I've accidentally jumped up in the chat. Just give me a second to catch up. ABL Dave says, charity shop sourcing is circumstantial. I'd only go in one if I'm near one or on another task. I wouldn't set out to go on a Chasm marathon. It's just not worth the time and expense. It's okay if you're a hobbyist, though. Yeah, I agree with that, Dave. And I actually quite enjoy, like, if me and Belle are just out and about, like saying to ourselves, oh, shall we go to such a town today and have a wander? We'll go in the charity shops while we're there and we'll have a look round. Chances are I'll find nothing, but I've I very rarely go somewhere with the sole aim of going around the charity shops. I just find that it's a waste of energy and time. I just think to myself, how many things could I have listed in that time? How many things could I have gone through and sniped online in that time? You know, I could have done some online arbitrage and picked up more things. I could have gone on Vinted or even eBay. You know, you can still buy things on eBay and flip them. You know, you can buy bundles and job lots and flip them online, even back on eBay. You know, I'd have more success at that than I would going around doing charity shop runs. I used to, like, if you went back through my channel, you will see charity shop videos where I've gone round to a town and gone in all the charity shops and got a haul. But that just doesn't seem to happen anymore. And it's definitely, I'm with you, Dave, on that. It's definitely not worth my time spending half a day or a whole day, like going in charity shop after charity shop after charity shop. Here's a myth from Married to Reselling. You can list hundreds with a cross lister. Is it a myth? I think you can. I'm actually working with a cross lister at the moment, guys. Kind of a new one on the block. I'm pretty impressed with it. I've been testing it out the last few weeks. I'm pretty impressed with it. You can list quite a lot. You can definitely speed up your processes with a cross lister once you get used to it. Sometimes it can take a bit of time and effort to sort of get into it. Like Zip Sale started off good, and then after a little while, Zip Sale kind of went off the boil for me a little bit. I know a lot of people still use Zip Sale, but I've been testing out another cross lister recently, and we might hear some more about that in the future. But I've so far been quite impressed with it. But I do think you can list a lot more in a short amount of time. Definitely. So is it a myth? Maybe hundreds, pushing it a bit. The best Resell Anything said the best I've managed to list in a day is 50. That's impressive. Is that like sticking to a certain kind of thing, like for like? Welcome to everybody in the YouTube chat. I appreciate you all being here. I'm just getting through all your questions and your myths because that's what we're doing today. Richard says it's hard to gauge as different stock, but I quit promoting entirely 15 months ago, and year on year sales went up. Perhaps sales could go up more if I promoted, but then VAT could come into play, so that's to consider. Yeah, fair enough. The thing is, right, with eBay, it's hard to compare anything because it's in. I think I was saying this in the Discord, actually, our Discord group for members. It's almost impossible to do any kind of comparisons on eBay because you never have that like when you're doing a test, a science test, you always have a control, don't you? Like one thing that you can compare to. But with eBay, there's no control. Even when you say like, "Oh, my sales are 10% up from this time last year's same period." But there's nothing. There's so many different factors that stops that being an accurate comparison. You might be first thing first, you might be listing better stock right now. That's the main thing. So it's so hard on anything, even when like you're doing even when you do a promoted listings test, it's impossible to say if it's worked or not. Yeah. There's no control. There's no set thing that you can actually compare to because everything that you list is different. And when you list it is different. How you list it is different. The time of the day and the time of the week you list it is different. Whether you promote it or not is different. The quality of your items are different. There's so many variables. It's mental. So the thing is, Richard, you just never know. You just never ever know. And who knows if you were to promote whether it'd improve your sales or not? It might not. You might just end up paying more fees. Oh, this is a good one. M's Den have come up with one here that I've got on my list. So great minds think alike. Mine kind of expands a little bit on this, but M's Den's myth is only list Christmas items in Q4. Now, I do agree that anyone says, well, your item might have a better chance of selling in Q4 if it's a Christmas item. However, I think my personal opinion is don't hold anything back all year round. Halloween, Christmas, Easter, what else seasonal do we have? Summer items. I don't hold anything back. When I've got it, it'll go in my queue to be listed. And that includes Christmas items. You can quite easily sell Christmas items all year round. I've sold items in Christmas items in June, July, any time of the year. If your item's good enough and it's desirable enough, somebody will buy it. And Halloween as well. I've sold Halloween items in January and February. Again, it all boils down to if you've got a good item and you're selling it at a good price, it will go. Maybe you'll get a little bit more for it at the correct seasonal time, but then you've got to hang on to things. And I just don't see any point in hanging on to stuff. Let's see what else we got. It was a good one though, Emsden. That was a good one. Tea cakes. Tea cakes. Now, tea cakes has got a myth here. And when I was watching the myth busting session that we did a year ago, there's two things I noticed that both tea cakes and Married to Reselling have were commenting last year. So thank you for being around for a year and sort of coming up with similar arguments and all very, very valid, totally valid. It's funny because and when I was watching it back this morning, I noticed quite a few people were sort of saying some of the things that we were saying here. Tea Cake says myth: promotions, markdown sales, tinkering, listing 10 a day doesn't make any difference if you have decent stuff that people want. You're probably right. You're almost certainly right, Tea Cakes. But here's a myth. Tea Cakes knows the algorithm. Because none of us do. So even your myth could be a myth, Tea Cakes. Who knows? I mean, I'm getting a headache just thinking about which one's the actual myth. But you're right. You are right. Who knows? Promotions, markdowns, tinkering, listing 10 a day. Maybe none of it makes any difference. Maybe it's just all about if you've got a good item that's got a high sell-through rate, it will sell. I've had good items, by the way, with good sell-through rates that haven't sold that quick. But then maybe I've like done a shit listing or something. I don't know. I think the essence of what you're saying, though, Tea Cakes, is probably right. Almost certainly right. 99% right. But we don't know for sure, do we? Chop's got a comment. Using new boxes and packaging versus recycled boxes and packaging makes a difference. Yeah, I think that's a myth. I think it makes any odds. When you say makes a difference, in what respect? Do you mean that it's more likely to get there in one piece if you use new ones? Is it going to be safer? Or does it make a difference on your sales or your return customers? Yeah. I use a mixture of new and used. I always like to recycle stuff, but I do make a decision like on a box, like, is it still majority in one piece? If it's got any like failures in it, if it's got a bend in the side, then I generally won't use it. I'll use it in another way. I might chop it up and use it to pad out another box. Very rarely does a box get binned. I'll usually use it for something. Tea Cake says, I have offers turned on now. All it seems to have done is get people blocked for sending cheeky offers. Oh. I remember the day I turned on best offer and my eBay went crazy. I think Tea Cakes, though, you've got to be open to it. It's like if you're in the mindset of kind of, this is my price, it's competitive, and that's what I'll sell it for, then offers are gonna like annoy the hell out of you. But if you're in the mindset of, I want to sell rather than store my stuff, and I'm willing to accept offers, if you're open to them, then you will definitely sell a lot more stuff. Definitely. But you've just got to kind of put up with those low ballers, really. That's what I find. I mean, I get a lot of low ballers. Every single day you get low ballers, without a doubt. I had one today. Someone offered me £5 for something that was 30. I'd consider that a low baller. All I did was I counted at 25 and then it goes quiet. Sometimes, though, those low ballers do turn into sales because people just try it on just to see how flexible you are. And sometimes, occasionally, like 1 in 50, will actually still buy it because they actually really want the item. But you do have to open your mind to offers. If you've never had offers on and all of a sudden someone's offering you £20 for a £30 item, you've got to say to yourself, how long have I had it? How much did I pay for it? And is it worth getting it out of the house or out of your business and turning that £20 over to something else? Here's a myth, says ABL. VAT is a big scary monster. If you're anywhere near the threshold, you have the ability to smash it and grow your business. It is quite scary, though, isn't it? I understand, having been there, Dave, I understand how people can sort of get a bit overwrought by it because it does involve changing the way you work. Employing an accountant for starters, is a big change to your business. Like for me, I would definitely have had to employ an accountant to do it for me. And certainly, even just the VAT aspect, I could have employed an accountant and they'd have worked out my VAT for me at a relatively reasonable fee. And then if you're starting to think about going limited, that's a whole new ball game, isn't it? And I think it can be scary. So is it a myth? I don't think it's a myth. I think it is scary. Whether the actual process of going through it is or not, it probably isn't when you're actually done and dusted. But maybe the thought of it is a myth. Sorry, maybe the thought of it is scary than it actually is. Which is true to most things in life, isn't it? Things that we worry about are normally not as bad as what they actually are when you're doing it. I'll take bungee jumping off that. Not that I've ever done it, but I'm pretty sure that that's going to be as scary as you imagine it to be. Oh, sorry. Married to Reselling said, no, the cross-lister comment wasn't a myth comment. It was a response to when you said you can list 70 items. Oh, God, I went on a whole rant about it, didn't I? Oh, right. So, okay, I understand now. So basically, the cross-listing can help you actually achieve those kind of numbers. Right. Yeah, I'll have that. I reckon I could go to those numbers if I was to cross list more than what I do now, which I'm working on, by the way. I'm working on it. The thing sometimes I get stuck in a thing of thinking to myself, the only listings that matter are eBay, and that's not correct because I operate on multiple platforms. So, like I might list 10 items on eBay, but then I'll list numerous items on other platforms. So in theory, I might do 20 listings, but in my head, for some reason, sometimes I only count the eBay ones and I forget the rest. When in reality, I might have done 20 listings in a day, but 10 were eBay, 5 were whatnot, and 5 were Vinted, for example. So yeah, sometimes I forget that you count it as a whole. Zebu says that Coca-Cola clock you have. Oh, the one from a recent video. Yeah, it's a nice one. That I got 2 of them, and one is sold, and there is one still up for sale. Feel free to make me an offer on it, Zebu. I am open to offers. If you want it, I'll do a good deal for a viewer. ABL Dave said, we've entered the myth universe and no one's mentioned Scooby-Doo. Raggy? I love you, Raggy. No one wants to hear that again, do they? T-Cake says, I was saying the same thing last year. What is not a myth is not worth all the time and effort doing all the tinkering. If it makes a difference or not, the time is lost. We just don't know if it makes a difference, though, do we, T-Cakes? That's the thing. What I've been doing recently, I've been tinkering. Surprise, surprise. At the moment, when my items get to 1 month, I do a price reduction on it. I don't take it down. I just reduce the price a little bit. And what that does is that alerts anybody who's viewed it or watched it that there's a price reduction, and hopefully it converts into 1 or 2 sales. And then what I do is when an item makes it to 2 months, I end the item and I sell similar and I do another price reduction. So effectively right now, everything in my eBay store is being reduced in price every single month. That is what's happening. And I know the ones that have sold after 1 month price reduction because I mark it in the SKU box. I put a little X and that tells me that something's sold after being reduced after 1 month. Now, what I have seen recently is I've had quite a few sales this last week where things have sold after having a price reduction after 1 month. Now, the problem is, like I was saying earlier with the whole control thing, there is no control to compare anything is. Would that item have sold anyway if I hadn't have reduced it? Would somebody have sent me an offer and I'd have taken an offer? I don't know is the answer. All I know is the sale came through, and that's the end goal, isn't it? It doesn't matter too much that you tinkered or not, is that there was a sale at the end of it. And that's what we're here to do, is to sell. So I guess who cares if we're making sales, is what I'm saying. Resell anything. Actually receiving feedback these days is a myth. Yeah, you do seem you don't get as much feedback these days, do you? Yeah, definitely that is a myth. Chris Tyler says, it's a myth that fragile tape on parcels secures better handling. Yeah, I to that extent, Chris, I go the opposite way with it. I never use fragile tape for that reason. I don't want to give the courier a challenge, so I never use it. Just checking through the chat again. Jeff says, myth, all bikers are mean and scary. They are, aren't they? I thought that was a thing. I'm joking, by the way, for anybody listening that's keen on biking. Let's see if we've got any more. I'm just trying to get down to the chat here. Lots of people in and talking about myths. Paul Rose says, being the lowest price means you have the best chance of a sale. Is that a myth? When price researching, all price points conditions come mixed throughout a search. Yeah, it is a myth. Lowest price, I think lowest price does not necessarily mean you get a best chance of the sale. I think that's a myth, because like promoted listings could promote somebody who's higher priced to top of search, and some buyers don't scroll very far before they buy something. It's a fact that that most buyers will scroll a bit, 2, 3, 4, 5 times on their phone if they're on the phone, or they'll go through 2 or 3 pages of results and then they'll stop looking. So your lowest price could be further down the search results, especially like if you're not promoting as well. So I think it's a myth that lowest price gets you the best chance of sale. Gives you a decent chance, but not necessarily the best chance. There's loads of times, Paul, when I've sold something, I know I'm not the lowest price. If your photos are better than the others, you could be a higher price. So, like, what extra value are you giving the buyer? Like, have you got 24 photos of an item? Your item is higher priced, but somebody who's got the same item has only got 2 photos on their listing, but they're the lowest price. I didn't deserve balloons for that, by the way. So I've done it as well. I bought things because they're better described. Because sometimes the psyche of a buyer is, why is it so cheap? Is it cheap because it's an inferior product compared to somebody selling the same thing for more expensive? That's why you need to make the most of your listing. I've definitely bought things in the past because people have got more photos or better quality photos. Definitely, 100%. So yeah, that's a myth. Let's carry on through the chat. If you're listening on the podcast, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music, thank you so much for being here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast. We're coming towards the end. And if you'd like to hit that download button, it means that you'll get all future podcasts automatically download for free. It doesn't cost you anything. We don't charge for the podcast. You might have to hear the odd advert here and there, but that's just the way it is. But I do appreciate it if you're listening. Hit the download, because that is how I'm measured on the podcast. It's the number of downloads. That's a really important number for me. It helps grow the podcast and get it out to more people. Paul says, I use fragile tape so the customer can see I tried, but nothing broken yet. Yeah, that's a fair point. Yeah. Paul Rose says, the US YouTubers lately have been saying that you're not a serious reseller if you don't leave automatic feedback. Sorry, I'll leave it straight away when I receive it. Yeah. Everybody's feedback policies are a little bit different. Personally, my opinion is that I leave feedback as soon as a buyer is paid. That's just the way I work. It's the way I've worked for a long time, and then I don't have to worry about it. But as a buyer, I'll always try and leave feedback as soon as I'm happy with the item and it's been received. Richard says I'm rarely the lowest price. Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one, Richard. I don't often go to sort of bottom of price bracket, but I do. Obviously, you do your research and then you pitch your item, wherever you see fit. I'll take good photos. I'll take a lot of photos. I'll give it as many item specifics as I possibly can. I'll offer a 60-day return policy. So that could be something that could convince someone to buy something that's more expensive because you've got a longer return policy. Maybe I've got free postage. That might factor into, whether you're lowest price or not. There's lots of different things, and you definitely don't need to be lowest price if you bring benefits in other ways. Paul says, absolutely, Chris. I've had cancellation requests saying found a better price. Thing is, mine will have been new or mint. The cheaper one is probably battered. Enjoy your item. Yeah. Fair enough. People have the right to choice, don't they, at the end of the day? And it's a feeling you get. And the problem is, if you're faced with searching for something that you want to buy and there's a lot of results, you have to make a decision one way or another. And sometimes it will be lowest price item. But sometimes if it's a second hand or something, you might want to, do a bit more research into how someone's listed something, the condition and all that stuff. Like if I'm buying, say, a charging lead for an iPhone or a plug for, I'm just looking on the floor, a plug for a Nintendo DSi XL. If I'm buying a plug for that, I'm going cheapest. I'm going lowest price first, definitely, because they're all the same. Every seller in that top bracket is the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort lowest price first, and I'll buy the cheapest one, as long as the postage time isn't too long. That's another thing. Postage time has an effect as well. It's another reason maybe not to buy the lowest price if you want it quicker. So many factors with everything, buying and selling. So many factors. But if I'm buying, like, the charging lead, I'll go lowest price. If I'm buying, say I want to buy a new iPhone, not a new one, but like a second-hand one, but I want a new phone, then I might not buy the cheapest. Because if somebody's put 24 photographs of a nice-looking phone on, they've gone to the effort of showing me how good a condition it is. That one might be more expensive than one that's actually in the same condition, but there isn't 24 photos. You know what I mean? I think I've laboured that point now. My voice is going. I've been talking that much. This is why I need to start bringing guests on more. I need to have a rest. Bill says, what do you think of the government wanting to get tax from resellers? I agree with this, but how are they going to tax people on the car boots? Yeah. I've got no problem with paying taxes, Bill. I pay my taxes. I pay tax on everything, all my income that comes in, I pay tax on it. My YouTube income, I pay tax on it. My reselling income, I pay tax on it. My sales, everything that comes into my business, I pay tax on. Even if I sell at a car boot sale and it's part of my business, all the cash that I make on that day gets transferred into my business account and I'll pay tax on it. Now, okay, granted, 99% of the people at the boot sale are not doing that, but I'm a legit business. Everything that I earn as a business, I pay tax on. But I understand there's a lot of people at the car boots, for example, like you've said, aren't paying their taxes. There are a lot of people who are just selling their own stuff, and that's fine. But there's a lot of businesses as well who are not paying their taxes. But we can't control that, Bill, can we? And I guess, without wanting to sound harsh, I don't really care what everyone else is doing. All I care about is that I'm doing the right thing, that I'm running my business in the correct manner. I don't really care if somebody else is not paying their taxes, because that's their choice. If they want to run the risk of getting a knock on the door, a letter in the post, a demand from HMRC to produce whatever taxes that they've not paid, if they want to end up with the worry of one day having a huge bill to pay or a fine, then that's up to them, Bill. I would say to you, don't worry about it, because it's something that you can't control. All you can control is what you do and the way you act and the way you carry yourself. I think that is the main thing. Don't worry about other people. It's tough. I know it is. And you're standing there in a field selling at a boot sale. You know you're paying tax on everything. And the next person, you know they are a business and they're probably not going to pay tax on it. What can you do? Nothing. One day, maybe it'll catch up with them, but it won't catch up with you. And that's the main thing. We're getting down to the end of the podcast, guys. We've been going an hour and 12 minutes. We're well over time. Bill said, I've always paid my taxes, but not all people are. Yeah, they're not, unfortunately. But, like I say, it's not worth worrying about. Man in suit making policies. I'm sure this is Jeff. Sure this is Santa in disguise. Taxes are great. We should all pay more taxes. I know. Tell me about it. Maybe they should be licensed. Maybe. I don't know. It probably, don't forget we buy at boot sales as well. So we get the benefit of people selling. And if people, this is the flip side of it, and it ain't right, but if you start putting licenses on everybody selling at a boot sale and forcing them to pay all their taxes, you might well find that no one turns up to sell anymore. And then we've got nothing to buy. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, isn't it? I think the bottom line is try not to worry about what other people do. Only concentrate on yourself. Oh, yeah, everyone pays tax in some way, shape, or form. Yeah. In some way, yeah. Everything in life is taxed, isn't it? The food we eat, the car we drive, every bloody thing, all the VAT taxes we pay on everything we buy, we're all paying taxes in one way or another, I suppose. Tea-Cake says AI drones with face recognition will soon be over car boot sales. Maybe laser weapons. Pay your taxes, people. Yeah, that would be funny, wouldn't it? Can you imagine? To be fair, it's probably why some car boot sales don't like us YouTubers going around with a camera on it, because they've got people at a boot sale. They have this myth. Here's a myth. Let's finish on this one. People selling at boot sales believe that because I'm recording their table, what I'm finding, and I might occasionally catch a face on a camera and it goes on YouTube, People believe that the tax man is sat there watching car boot sale videos and trying to piece together a jigsaw about somebody selling at a boot sale, not paying their taxes. Oh my gosh. Yeah, people believe that, and that's obviously a myth. But people have this weird conception about videoing at boot sales and how the tax man is going to find them. I mean, what a load of balls that is. I did have some other stuff written down, but we've covered loads of myths and we've busted some things. We've upheld some as well. We've decided that some are in fact not myths. So thank you everybody for joining us on the podcast today. I really, really do appreciate it. If you're listening to this on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Alexa and all that stuff, please hit that download button. It'll make sure you know about the next podcast, which will be next week. In fact, next week is going to be the finale of season 3. We'll have a very short break of maybe a week or two. That's it. We don't have a long break. And then we'll be into season 4. We're going to get loads of guests back on again in season 4. I've got guests lined up to come on the show and talk about various things to do with reselling. So don't miss that. Thank you so much. If you're able to leave a review on your podcasting channel, please leave a review. I've had a few 5 stars. It's better if it's 5 stars, obviously. If not, probably don't bother leaving one. See you later.
That's it for today's episode of the Everything Reselling podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, to follow, or to subscribe wherever you're watching or listening to this podcast. And we'll see you on the next episode.